Thank you, Lincoln. Thank you, the East Midlands. Mainly thank you for standing up for democracy and electing me and my colleagues to represent this area to ensure we leave the European Union just as we were promised so many times would happen. But why have I ended up here? I was really very happy being a mum near Skegness, looking after my children and the new puppy that arrived in the middle of the campaign. Oh, that was interesting. But it's because I believe, like you, in our country's democracy. In 2003, I have been working on this a while, I set up a referendum campaign because I could see the direction the European Union was heading in, and our political leaders were not telling us the truth. Finally, in 2015, we were promised that referendum. My patience had paid off, and the people were going to decide. My despondency turned to hope. I didn't know if Leave would win, but I knew we were being asked. I knew we could express how important this decision was, no matter what you believed in. Democracy was going to decide. We had the referendum, and beyond my wildest dreams, we not only won, but we won pretty well. 17.4 million. That night, for my sins, they must be great, I was overseeing the count from the Leave side in Hackney. I wasn't very popular. But as I was coming home, the news broke on the BBC. Leave had done it. I think it's in my genes that we're not a terribly emotional family, but I'll confess I shed a tear. I had hope of freedom, hope of sovereignty, the respect of democracy and British law. And then the process started. First of all, the Conservatives could not make up their minds who to have as leader. They all pulled out, and we got left with Theresa May. Not one of us had a say in that. It was stitched up behind closed doors. She promised the earth. We were still leaving. It would all be all right. My hope turned to fear. Maybe she wasn't going to deliver. Parliament kept trying to stop her civil servants. Enough said. The fear turned to despair. And on the 29th of March, 2019, I became angry. I could not believe that our country's leaders had betrayed the people who put them there, us, the British people, by such a long way. We weren't leaving on the 29th. It was no longer June, or it was October. I couldn't sit by and watch the raw anger that so many people were feeling. I discovered the Brexit Party. And here I am now. As I started campaigning with many of you on the streets, that fear, that anger, turned back to hope. Meeting real people on the streets, not hiding away, as so many leavers we'd had to do, thinking we were alone, knowing that our best future lay outside the European Union, but only hearing on the BBC or Channel 4 or Skye, that everyone wanted to remain now and there were none of us left. Well, I knew I wasn't incredibly old and I hadn't yet died, so I thought I might not be quite alone. But going to the streets of the East Midlands, my heart was filled. So many people seeking us out, offering help, support. How many leaflets can I take? How many newspapers can I deliver? It was amazing. And then we won. And it had a profound impact on British politics. We got rid of Theresa May. She'd be clinging on. People kept saying I admire her resilience. I'm not prone to swearing, but I call it bloody mindedness. In the face of all opposition, she thought she knew best. The problem is, so did her MPs. That's why this general election matters. Tonight, they're trying to stitch us up yet again in the House of Commons. We can't let them keep getting away with it. We've got to change them. But why is this notion of democracy so important? Well, I had quite an old father and he had quite an old mother. So actually, my granny wasn't allowed to vote when the first Emancipation of Women Act came in 1918. It wasn't until 1928 that she got a vote. And now, here we are. I'm elected. Women have led our country. We've got universal suffrage. But that comes with rights. It comes with rights to choose who governs us and how. It's that very concept of democracy that led to the referendum. In the 19th century or before, no Prime Minister would have gone to us, the people, and said, what do you think? They thought we were all thick, ill-educated, probably old and about to shuffle off this mortal coil. We seem to have gone full circle. But we were promised in that referendum that the people would decide. What we decided would be enacted. We voted to leave, and it hasn't happened. Without democracy, what are we? Are we a state of anarchy? Are we under communism? It's a bleak future. Our leaders do not know better than us. They should take our advice. I would almost argue that we already don't have a democracy. Martin will agree that going over to Brussels and Strasbourg highlights just what a plastic facade of democracy MEPs are over there. With our MEPs in Westminster ignoring us as well, what's the point? Well, democracy doesn't work without losers' consent, and our leaders have forgotten that. It doesn't work unless they enact the will of the 17.4 million of us who voted to leave. So now we've got Boris Johnson and he promises the earth again. Well, he would. He wants to be Prime Minister. But a budge is not democracy. It's not what I voted for. It's not what you voted for. Still being trapped by the European Court of Justice? That's not leaving. Not leaving. I don't need to tell you these words, because in fact, leavers are amazingly well educated. They've read the treaties. How many people came up to me on the streets and said, what about the single market? What about the customs union? What about the Irish border? I've heard this and I've heard that, and I've read this treaty and the Belfast Agreement. Leavers know their stuff. They deserve to be respected. Abandoning a manifesto is not a democracy. That's why I'm here. That's why I hope you are all here. We demand trust. We demand a government we can trust. We demand an opposition we can trust. We demand our leaders listen to us. We demand representation, and crucially, we demand the respect we deserve. We are ready to deliver democracy of the people, for the people, for our great nation, for our children and our grandchildren. Together, we will be heard, and we will win.